Okay. This is the Flood and Erosion Control Board. It's May 16th, 7:03 p.m. So we got to officially start the meeting right now. So let's introduce ourselves. I'm Don Lamberti, Vice Chair.
I'm Dick Mahusky, I'm Secretary.
Paul Andino, member.
Is Peter on the line or not?
Peter Wiswell will be calling in. He is not on the line yet.
But the three of us are here, so we do have a quorum. So
yes,
we'll start the meeting. So the agenda first is to call to order. Number 2 on the line, to hear, consider, and act upon minutes of April 18th, 23 meeting. So do you have minutes? Yeah. Are there any comments?
My only comment in at the end of item number 3, which is a recap of the conversation we had about Penfield Pavilion. The last sentence says, Flood and Erosion Control Board will provide Board of Selectmen with study updates. I don't recall what that means. I don't think we as a body obligated ourselves to provide anything to Board of Selectmen. I think we're just working with the Penfield group, and hopefully having our input to the race study, and the Penfield group will report out. If there is anything to report, we always have the option to do that. But I would submit that we should strike that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you just tell me where it is, because I can fix it right here. Okay, that's 3.
End of number 3.
End of number 3.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all I have. The rest of it,
that's it.
Looks fine.
Paul, any comments?
No comment.
I have no comments.
So then I make a motion that we approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second.
Second. Okay, we have a vote.
All
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, vote is 3-0 in favor of it. Okay, agenda item is passed. Okay. Agenda item number 3, discuss and evolving plans for the Penfield Pavilion. So Dick, do you have some comments on that?
Nope. Tom Bremer is, as he obligated, he's giving updates to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen last week, I guess, they approved maybe 3 contracts that have to do with getting the design done, getting the race shoreline study done for the wave dynamics, because that's necessary to feed into the structural engineer for the new foundation design. There was some conversation at the Board of Selectmen meeting about the plans for the building. They're going to do some minor interior renovations in conjunction with the retrofit of the foundation. And anybody who's interested can listen to that meeting and see what that, but no big great surprises. Tom Bremer was hoping that the race would have their study completed by May 1st. Everything takes longer than it takes, so they're not quite done yet. So he just recommitted that when race gets finished with what they need to do to input to the structural engineer, they will morph right over into the $100,000 earmarked wave study that we are interested in.
Mm-hmm. So they're still planning on after Labor Day to do the work?
Yes, yeah, because they have to do all the design drawings during the summer. They have to go out for real bids now that they have the scope of work identified on the plans and specifications. Mm-hmm. So that's what's going to take place during the summer, and then after Labor Day, they hope to have the bids in hand, the successful bidders selected, and then go forward with the actual work.
And when will the actual work be done, or any idea?
They're looking to do it before June of 2024. They're looking to do it all during the fall, winter, spring season, so it's open next summer again.
And this will make all the powers to be happy. Everything will be, hopefully.
Nobody knows. Nobody's ever happy. Nobody knows. There's no such thing as universal happiness.
Okay, very good. Okay.
So it's moving along. No big red flags yet. They still, they obviously still have to go with FEMA. I think EPA and DEEP are pretty well signed off on the contamination mitigation. I think that's like a done deal. But they still have to go with, when the plans are developed, they have to go back to FEMA with those plans and say, okay, here's what we're gonna do now, okay?
Okay, fair enough. Sounds good. Okay, so everything's moving then on that.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on the discussion? Okay, that finished item 3, it's finished. And item number 4, review status of items on the Flood and Erosion Control Board project list.
Chairwoman Bunnell
Peter Whistle.
how do I mute this? Can I mute this?
Yeah, just press the green bar. Press the green.
Okay, back online.
So we're back live. We just took a little break there to do some internal housekeeping. Nothing was decided, nothing was discussed that's germane. So, project list. So Becky Bunnell, the chairwoman, reached out to Bill Hurley beginning of last week, trying to see if we could sit down with him and get an update on a number of topics. And Bill is just overwhelmed with various and sundry things that are going on in town, and he couldn't find the time to do that. So we don't have any current updates. I guess I know a couple of things. One is that just yesterday evening at the Board of Selectmen meeting, there was an item there to do that inventory of all of the tide gates in town, an analysis and inventory. So that was approved by the Board of Selectmen yesterday. And I'm unclear whether it has to go to Board of Finance or not. It's not all that much money. Maybe it doesn't have to go on. It's below 100,000. So I don't know where it's going, but it's approved, and it's a good thing to do. So that will give us a firm footing to start our ranking of what tide gates need what repair, restoration work going forward. I just want to announce Peter Wiswell has joined us online. Peter, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
I am here.
Good. I'm just looking to see if I have any germane notes here. No, so I think for next month's meeting, I expect that we will have sat down with Bill Hurley and others and have a good update on all of the projects that we have on our list.
Mm-hmm. Is there any update on us being part of the process of doing these? Remember, you wrote a letter last week, didn't you, or last month? We want to be part of the process?
I don't know. I have not seen. Yeah, that was Becky was going to write a letter to reinforce the fact that Flood and Erosion Control Board wants a seat at the table when these projects that affect riverine flooding, erosion, and shoreline flooding and erosion. And this, what has happened is we used to have visibility of all the requests for proposals that went out, but recently there's like a subsystem within purchasing that where there are pre-approved bidders list,
right,
that they go out with these smaller segments of project to that pre-approved bidders list, and they're not necessarily noticed on the public side of the purchasing department. So we just want to get an awareness of that. And I don't know if Becky sent that or not. Last month we authorized her to make the edits that we talked about last month, and she was going to send it. I don't know if she did that. Did she?
I don't know either.
Okay,
No.
okay, so she may not have.
So any other items?
No.
Oh, I have items for number 5.
Okay,
But not-
are we
but not
through with
project.
number 4 then? Item number 4 finished?
Yeah, I have nothing else on the,
Okay, then item number 5, any additional business? Dick, you have some?
yeah. Becky and I went to this last month, we've gone to 3 things. There was a Department of Emergency Management and Connecticut Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security meeting that was, or seminar, that was an all-day thing over at our fire training headquarters here in town. And that was attended by people from throughout Lower Fairfield County. That Demis is going to have, I think, 4 such meetings over the next 2 months or so.
Who's having it? I'm sorry.
DEMH.
Oh, Department of Emergency and Homeland, oh, sorry.
Right, Department of Emergency Services and Homeland Security.
Oh, thank you very much.
So it was just an awareness kind of thing. Here's the agenda: urban flooding watches, river and stream flooding advisories, and this had to do with emergency notification of people, the impact of climate change on urban flooding, messaging to diverse, vulnerable populations. Talked about some grants that are available. Talked about the National Flood Insurance Program, impact of climate change on coastal flooding, and Jim O'Donnell from Circa gave that little address. They talked about the Stanford Hurricane Barrier a little bit. That's an interesting project that's getting along in the tooth now. They're going to be shutting that down to do a major rebuild of the gate system itself on that. Yeah.
You took the real money there.
So that was an interesting day. And then Becky and I also, last week I guess it was, we went up to UI headquarters in
Milford.
No, I keep wanting to say Bristol, but it's not Bristol. Anyway, up just south of Hartford. So we went up there, and that was a brief address by Katie Dice, the DEEP commissioner for Connecticut, and Chris Davis, I think the gentleman's name is, and he is the FEMA Region 1 administrator. He was a very interesting guy. He's got a lot of background in this stuff, and they just talked about what's happening with FEMA and so forth. It was interesting, but nothing earth-shattering. And then yesterday we had our Fairfield contingent go up to Avery Point, the Yukon campus at Avery Point, where Circa had a workshop, and that was very interesting too, because what they did, they took 4 situations, and they had little focus groups to come up with solutions for these 4 situations. Erosion, flooding, changing in the flood maps, downtown flooding, and they were interesting. We broke up in various groups, and we had the Fairfield contingent there. Becky and I again went, Bill Hurley went, Emmeline Harrigan went, and Alyssa Israel went. And Alyssa was there in the morning. I spoke very briefly with her, and I don't know how long she stayed, but she was not there at the end of the whole thing. But it was interesting to see. I mean, she holds no, quote, credential, unquote, but she's obviously an interested town person who lives in the beach area. So that was interesting to see. So that was a...
Did you have any big takeaway from the meeting?
No, not really. It's silly things like one of the towns has downtown flooding. There's a depressed area in the downtown area, and when they get a lot of rain, it floods. And it's like, well, they don't know where their storm sewers are. They don't know what condition their storm sewers are in.
Ooh.
So what can we do about it? Well, I mean, I don't know. First, you got to do your homework and find out what the facts are and what's working. So it was just, it's one of those things, there's no great takeaway, but a lot of good information in the back of your head that you can synthesize onto a circumstance that happens here in our town, for instance, so. The other thing, Becky sent a note to Bill Hurley on May 11th, and GZA has done, under a contract, GZA has done an analysis of some of our shoreline flooding mitigation proposals, early stage proposals. And the objective of this was to do a benefit cost analysis, because applying for grants, the grantors want to see, hey, what am I going to get back for my bucks? I'm going to spend $100 here. What value is the town?
Fair enough.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
So GZA said, no, there's no benefit, no good benefit to this, because each of these projects is useless because the water will run around and get into the floodplain at other locations. And this is the same thing that Tom Bremer is, I'll say negative, but it's not really negative. He's just questioning, why are you going to worry about flood protection at the Penfield site when there are so many other 8-foot high locations along the shoreline where the water is just going to come in? And so it's like, okay, but we have to start somewhere. You know, you can't, in 2018, 7 locations. You have to take them one at a time. So Becky asked Bill, have GZA verbalize where are these other locations, because apparently they did a topographical study along the whole coast, so they have a list of where these low points are, and if we can rank the low points and we can address a couple of the low ones first, maybe we raise our resistance by a foot or 2 or 3 with very little expenditure of money. How do we do that? I don't know. Do we build a berm? We have to go to Deep and say, Mother, may I? Deep will say, on the shorefront? So it's it's still catch-22 with all of this, but we do want to get that information from GZA, so it's retrievable.
Sounds useful.
And that will be similar. That will be similar to, we've all seen Eli Gazal's 10-foot long map that he did of the shoreline, where he has all those blue arrows for the 8-foot locations coming in. So hopefully we'll get that.
Is this a formal request to get the information, or is it just gonna happen?
Hi, Bill. I'll read Becky's email to Bill. Before we close this project out, can we request that GZA do a detailed topographical map of the whole shoreline, showing all of the elevations along the shore and key water insertion points, at least the areas they measured to do their analysis? This way, we have an up-to-date view of all the low points and medium low points that need to be addressed in the future. I know Eli has his master map that covers this, but I'm looking for a detailed look for presentations. Thanks. So that's that.
Sounds good.
That's that. I sent around a thing about the Big U project in lower Manhattan, and there were some photographs on there how they're building their flood wall. It looks like a basket weave kind of flood wall, and
around Manhattan Island, is that right?
Yeah, around the lower
South of Canal,
the east side. And I was down there. My kid lives down there, so I was down there, and I drove by there and just took a glimpse of that. That's a good-looking wall, the way they have the cement like basket weave. So
how do they get permission to build a wall?
They don't have.
It's New York. It's New York.
It's only Connecticut that has this problem.
Yeah, we can't move a stone.
Right, because of DEEP. It's the way Connecticut is set up. It's environmental protection system. It's unique. Rhode Island doesn't have it. New York doesn't have it.
Peter, do you have anything that is weighing heavily on your heart?
Is Peter on it?
Only one. A few weeks ago, Becky and I were walking down the beach together, and she asked if I might be able to develop some numbers relative to installing the T's at the ends of the groins. And so I reached out to a couple of engineering firms and contractors that I know and provided them with the Corps of Engineers study and asked them if they might provide us with a very, very rough estimate. And the quid pro quo was, if we get any traction, you'll be on the bidders list, full stop. I have not heard back. I've had discussions with a couple of firms. They've indicated that they'll get back to me. I need to nudge them to move along. And I should add, if I understood Becky correctly, one of her thoughts was, look, this may end up being something that's bonded by the town to be serviced by the property owners. We should try to get a number together. Can you get something? I'm working on it. Hopefully I'll have something pretty soon. That was really it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've reached out, the Army Corps gave you the names of contractors who do this kind of work, and they're getting estimates, or the Army Corps is putting together an estimate of, so much per linear foot of rocks?
No, sorry, I didn't explain it very well. Becky asked if, based on my day job, I might know people that would do this, and I know several people that do this type of work. We agreed that I would send the Corps of Engineers study to those people that I work with and have a relationship with, to ask them if they would, on a gratis basis, provide us with a very rough estimate to at least give us something to work from.
Okay,
the Corps
got it.
has not been involved at all.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
That's all I got.
And it would be interesting to know what the cost would be for something like this to work against. And then, Dick, I did have one other comment. Last week before, I saw a story in the Fairfield Citizen that was discussing collection of oyster shells from restaurants and the like to be placed offshore in anticipation of oyster spat attaching to it, and as a byproduct, it produced a reef that would break the wave action in the event of a bad storm. Is that something that anybody knows anything more about, and is that in fact of any value?
No, it's of no value. That's my opinion, based on the fact that an oyster reef isn't going to take a lot of energy out of the waves unless it's pretty darn massive. And I don't know how thick our oyster mat is today out in our offshore oyster fields. My sense is that it's not very thick.
Right.
But I don't know that.
Okay.
But yeah, oyster reefs are. Go ahead.
The only point I would add is, I may be wrong, but my impression is that the, call it, oyster population has increased substantially over the last 5 years. And if that is true, is that enough to make any real difference? I'm inclined to agree with you, Dick, but that's not something I have any expertise at. I think those T's on the groins would be far, far better than
Yes.
9 million oyster shells.
Oh, yeah.
We're not gonna see
Yeah.
it. Oysters are not,
Yeah, I mean, I believe that one of the big projects off of Staten Island, New York, the ocean-facing shore of Staten Island, I believe part of that project is to create an oyster reef. I have no details, how big, how long, how high, but again, millions and millions of oyster shells need to be stuck together to get a mass big
A
enough
lot
to
of
do
dinners.
anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
or the absence of a lot of them.
You know,
So
Dick,
that's not something that I expect to be on our project list.
No.
Dick, that is an excellent observation, because that Citizen article had a photograph of 2 or 3 people standing in front of their pile of oyster shells that they were
Yeah,
enormously proud of.
it's like a half of a mini dumpster size.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Tax deductible
And-
report.
And so I think you've hit the nail on the head. If they want this to work, they better ratchet it up by a multiple of about 500.
Yeah.
And in the interim, unfortunately, we require some engineering and construction work. But unfortunately, as I think Don noted, DEP don't want you to move a single rock. So, but I will get
That's right.
those numbers as best I can.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments, any other questions?
I'm clear.
I have nothing else.
Okay, then I think,
And we have no members of the public who have called in, nor are they in attendance.
okay, fair enough. That's true, I think we should call an end to the meeting at 7:30. Any, do we have to vote on ending the meeting?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting
Okay,
until
and-
next
Second.
month.
Okay, have a vote to end?
No
End?
objections?
No objection, the meeting is now officially ended.
Okay.